Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Leslie presents. And now your host, Paul Leslie.
A big thank you and welcome to Mr. Anton Fig for being our special guest today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Mr. Fig, one of the things that someone would first notice when they listen to your album Figments is just the variety of the music. So many different styles on one album. And I was wondering especially about the world music influence. I know you grew up in South Africa, and I was wondering if your growing up there had an influence on your songwriting.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, when I was growing up in South Africa, it was quite a while ago, and our link to the outside world was via shortwave radio. We used to tune into Lorenzo Marx, which is Mozambique now, and we would hear the stuff that was coming from overseas, from Europe, basically, via that radio. And that's where I kind of got my rock education. But there was also the African music that was, indigenous to South Africa. That music is much like what you hear on the Graceland record by Paul Simon, if you take away the vocals and just listen to the instrumentals. So I heard a lot of that kind of music growing up. And then my mom played classical piano, and my dad was really into jazz. So I got a pretty wide variety of influences. Growing up in South Africa, it was a completely different flavor to say growing up, somewhere in America, music-wise and culturally.
One of the songs that I really, really liked, and I was wondering about the influence behind it, was 3/4 Folk.
It's sort of inspired by a kind of West African style rhythms where the song, it was like a folk song, but the song could be heard in either in 3/4 time or in 4/4 time. And a lot of that music, you have instruments playing it in the two different times at the same time. And just depending on how you listen to it, you can hear it both ways. So I was trying to kind of create that aspect. And also when I came to America, I was very into Weather Report. And one of the ways that they used to write songs was it wasn't necessarily like verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, like a typical pop song. They would write songs in a linear fashion, so there may be like an A section, a B section, and then it would go on to a C section, and it would the form wouldn't really repeat, it would just move in a sort of one direction. And so that song kind of does that as well. It just I think I do repeat the verse and the chorus, but after that it just kind of moves into new sections. So the form of the song was inspired by that, but the rhythms definitely came from a sort of an African-style device of hearing 3 and 4 at the same time.
The album has a lot of great musicians on it, some from the Late Night Show, but also people like Brian Wilson, Ivan Neville, Ace Frehley. I was wondering if you thought anyone in particular really shines on the album.
Well, I think they all do. I've been lucky in that I've played with lots of different people and in lots of different circumstances. So I've mostly called on my friends and people that I've played with to kind of help me out on the record. And I try to sort of place combinations of people. It wasn't just let's see who we can get. I try to kind of get the right combinations for the right band. So, for example, the song with Ace, I got Richie Scarlett. We used to play in Fraley's Comet together, and Sebastian Bach. From Skid Row, I thought that would be a good combination for that particular song. And the Brian Wilson song that Brian's on, I have Blondie Chaplin singing vocals, and Blondie's an old friend of mine from South Africa, and I've played with him a lot, and he's currently singing with the Stones. He's been with the Stones for the last 10 years, but he sang Sail on Sailor with the Beach Boys. He used to be in the Beach Boys, so I had Blondie singing and Brian doing the background vocals, so it kind of made sense from that point of view. Actually, there's a really great moment. If you go past all the songs and let the record just play a little bit, the CD, there's a little hidden track, and I took Brian's vocal harmonies and took the music away, so you just hear the vocals by themselves. That's an incredible moment.
A lot of people on the album are from the CBS Late Night Orchestra, and I was just wondering how you started with the show.
Well, there's not a lot. There's some. There's about 40 different people on the record, and the Letterman, I maybe used 4 people from the band or 5, But what happened was I was playing around New York City, And I had done a record. I played with Will and Paul and Hiram on a few different projects. And in the mid-'80s, I actually did a record with Paul Butterfield, a blues player from Chicago, and Paul was on the record. Steve Jordan was the regular drummer on the show. And, when he couldn't make it, they would have various substitute drummers. And one day they called me. I mean, it took a while, but I guess everyone was out of town, and eventually they called me, and I substituted for a few weeks. Then Steve came back, and then he had to leave again. About a month later, Paul called me up and said, it looks like Steve is leaving the show. And, I don't know what happened there. There was whatever mutual reasons. And he said, we like the way you substituted, and you can have the gig if you want it. Thought about it for about a split second. And said, fine.
I saw the episode where there was a performance from Figments. Thought it was interesting. Do you think overall that Dave Letterman is supportive, like the Will Leah solo effort, various solo projects from the members of the orchestra?
Well, I think that he likes the band. He likes the music. Very supportive of the music. He's always commenting about how great the band sounds. And I gave him a copy of the record, and, one night they called and said, Dave really loves this. I'd like to book you on the show, which I thought was really very, very supportive of him. And really, really great, just basically we picked a song, and with the Ivan Neville one, Inside Out. I got Blondie to sing backgrounds on it. And Randy Brecker, the jazz trumpet player, plays the solo on the record, so I got him to play the solo. It was very generous of Dave, and it was a fantastic experience to play the song on the show.
Is there anyone in the orchestra that you feel exceptionally close to? I know you probably get along with everyone, of course.
Yeah, well, I feel close to everyone there because, I'm very thankful to Paul for hiring me. He's the leader. Will is a fantastic musician. Felicia, Sid, they all are fantastic musicians. But I see the guys every day, and I feel close to all of them. I can't single anyone out. It's just great to be with that whole combination.
Do you envision a second Anton Fig album?
Yeah, I'd like to do that. And at the moment, I've been doing some film music, and I've been playing on records, and also been doing, recording drum files and sending it to people across the country. And I do foresee another record, but I don't know when that'll be because it's a lot of work. It took me a long time to do. When you do a project by yourself, if you don't feel like working that day, the whole project stops. It's a lot to take on. You got to make sure you got the right material in place. And then, once you've done the record, which is the really fun part, you got to try and get it out there, which is, difficult. The way the business is now, even though there's the internet, and that helps a lot, it's prohibitive to get it into the advertising and on the radio. It's so expensive. So, those are all things to consider before embarking on a huge project. But I definitely will be doing something, whether it's a second record or maybe a smaller thing, an EP of some kind, or there definitely will be some more stuff coming from me.
I saw Jordan Zevon a couple of weeks ago on The Late Show. I know Warren Zevon had such a relationship with the show. I was looking at one of my absolute favorite Warren Zevon songs, and I noticed that you played on Genius. I was wondering what it was like working with Warren Zevon.
Well, it was great. I worked with him a lot on the show because when Paul couldn't make the show, they got Warren as the keyboard player, but they made me the band leader. So I was sort of, behind conducting the band and kind of doing the cues for the day and figuring out what to play. And then we did, Warren's songs, obviously. I conducted the band, and then Warren, played keyboards and spoke to Dave now and then. And, he's very funny and an incredible songwriter. It was fantastic, learning all his material. And then he called me up and said, would you like to play? I'm doing an album. My ride's here. Would you like to play on the record? So, of course, I jumped at the chance. And we went into a little studio. He flew to New York, and basically it was just me and him in the studio. He had some stuff already down on tape, Pro Tools, and so I just kind of, over the course of a weekend or two, just put all my drum tracks down and percussion overdubs. It was a great experience. Basically, it was just me and him and an engineer in the studio. And then he went back to LA, and I think he put a little bass on and just finished it.
What was it like working with Ace Frehley?
Yeah, well, I've worked with Ace since he did the his solo record, which had New York Groove and Rip It Out on it, and some of the records that he did with his band. When he came and played on my record, he was actually in the middle of a tour. He just ran up to my apartment, put a few solos on, and then we just kind of, edited it around. If you're interested in checking out the record, you can get it at Amazon, CD Baby, iTunes, and AntonFig.com. He's always been a good friend. He's a great player. Always had a good vibe and a good friendship. It's really fun to work with him. He's great. What can I say? He means a lot to a lot of people and means a lot to me too.
Was there anything on the album that you found in particular was a favorite of yours?
Not really. I mean, I listen to the songs and, certain things sort of resonate more with me at a certain time than others, but I really kind of, like the whole record. There was one thing, if I say I had a regret, at the end of January, February, March, I had a drum solo, which I decided to leave off the final version of the song on the record, and, I was maybe sorry that I did that. Beyond that, I mean, I like all of it. They're all very different songs. They sort of keep your interest going. I try to make it so that if you decided to follow any instrument right through the song, it would kind of be interesting and take your ear, or if you could just listen to the song as a whole. So I really kind of worked hard to make each song like a little journey that you could kind of work your way through. Even though it was completed a year or two ago, it still sounds pretty current to me. It's not, I didn't use any fancy tricks or fads or anything like that. So it feels like a good, solid record that should hold up for a while.
I was wondering, in your course of time with The Late Show, you certainly played with just a lot of amazing artists, and I know it'd be hard to pinpoint just a couple. Were there any in particular that it was especially memorable for you?
Playing with Miles Davis on the show was very memorable because I've been a huge Miles Davis fan, and to get a chance to play under him was great. To play with James Brown was unbelievable. Springsteen was unbelievable. Stevie Winwood, Willie Nelson. I think, just to have the chance to play Miles Davis was pretty profound for me. And we actually got to play James Brown a few times. When you play with a really, really great guy, you're sort of playing away there and you're thinking, man, these guys sound exactly like the real guys. And, and of course it is them. You're not playing in a cover band. You're playing with the actual guys themselves. That really raises the energy level up. It makes you really concentrate and play harder, and very thankful for having the opportunity to have the experience.
When someone listens to your music, is there anything in particular that you hope that they get out of it?
I hope that it takes them somewhere. Takes them on some kind of a journey. Maybe some of the words resonate with them, but it's, that the music kind of takes them to a place. I've gotten a lot of people have written back to me and told me that they've really gotten a lot out of my CD. I didn't try and do anything. I just sort of did it the way that I heard it, and when I'd kind of heard everything, the music was done kind of thing. It's like sometimes it's hard to know just when to stop, but it's like, I don't know how to describe it. I just did it to the best of my ability. I don't know, how that'll hit people, but I hope that it hits them in a positive and fulfilling way.
My last question, given that this program goes out all over the world, I was wondering what Anton Fig would like to say to the world.
Could always use a bit of peace. I don't understand why there's all this fighting going on. I know humans have been fighting ever since we've been in the world. I know there's lots of differences between people. Everyone's entitled to their differences, but it's not worth killing someone over. Hopefully we can all get along a little better.
Well, Mr. Fig, I do thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for having me, and I really enjoyed talking to you.
This common language that we